So starting the test drive in this RAV4, I actually had a 2018 model. It was in the limited trim. And my girlfriend loved that car. I absolutely despised it, but this one drives pretty similarly to that. I should just say identical. The 2.5 liter, it has potential, but it's not obviously it's not what I would consider fast. But the sport mode certainly helps, so I'll put it into that to get on the interstate. So it's not like I'm flooring it, but it's still, I wouldn't call it peppy. It just kind of makes this a little more doable in my opinion. For someone like myself who appreciates acceleration, appreciates power, the sport mode just makes this engine a little better to tolerate. Now it does make it more thirsty because it keeps the revs higher, but you really don't need to use it all the time. And the 6-speed shifts very nicely, I will say that. The whole time I had my RAV4, as much as I hated just the power from the 4-cylinder, the 6-speed did its thing. I'm gonna take the sport mode off, put the eco mode on now, and turn the cruise on. So road noise can be prevalent in this, but wind noise is pretty good. And it could have something to do with one of these tires being low, again, just with the weather change or whatever. But the ride quality itself is pretty similar to what I'm used to. And the one I had only had about 25,000 miles on it, so it's nice to see with closer to 100,000 that this rides pretty much the same. And me, when I would drive that RAV4, mine, I would start out probably around 30, 31 miles per gallon on the highway if I did around the speed limit, but then usually when I was going to Florida from Tennessee or to southeastern Georgia, the fuel economy would diminish just having to floor it to pass people, because it took a lot for the RAV4 to pass, and then just also going probably 10 or 15 over the speed limit on the interstate there. So that'll cause a lot of extra gas to be burned. But just driving this around town, especially in the eco mode, shouldn't have a lot of trouble with fuel economy. Now I will say, I think a lot of people like these. I should say the audience this is tailored towards loves these because they're easy to drive. There's not a lot going on here that can be confusing. You still have your Bluetooth audio, your backup camera. One of the biggest issues about the RAV4 though is the glare that you get on the screen. Now you can adjust that by messing with some settings or whatever. But when this gets a glare, especially in the middle of the day, and then probably early to late, just depending on where the sun rays are coming from, this will pretty much be unusable, especially when it's kind of dim like that. But how the screen was set up just wasn't the best. But again, it's really not a huge deal. It's just annoying when you know these vehicles like I do. That's just kind of something that I want to put out there, because a lot of vehicles I test drive and I don't necessarily know them like the back of my hand because I haven't owned them and been on road trips with them, but I pretty much know this body style RAV4 like the back of my hand. What I will say is these tend to be, and I didn't have mine was low miles, and when I got rid of it, I put about 25,000 miles on it, but it wasn't near this kind of mileage here. But this one here, having closer to 100,000 again, everything seems to be working good. It's driving fine, and these are just known for having pretty trusty powertrain. That's why you still see some 2000 or 2003 models with a quarter million miles, excuse me, still being driven around daily. Toyota's just kind of known for that, but they're easy to maintain, and especially when you do maintain them the way you should and just keep up with repairs that come up along the way, they'll last you as long as you can put gas in them, pretty much. And again, this drives just like my low mileage one did that was newer. And that's another reason that people love these. They just know how they drive. There aren't any surprises. They're like the 4Runners. People just love them. And now this one isn't the fastest or the most fun to drive in the segment, but in their own way, they're kind of got their own bulletproof name to them, kind of like the 4Runners, the Camrys, and other Toyotas. But always been a decent vehicle, especially again for those that are in this segment. And this will bring me to the end of my review of this 2015 Toyota RAV4 in the XLE trim level.